This is The Civil Fleet, the podcast focused on the activist-led refugee rescue and support missions across Fortress Europe, with me, Ben Coles. In today's episode, we're going to speak with Sergio from No Name Kitchen. He tells us how the group supports people on the move along the Balkan route and in Eastern Europe, and about the types of violence these people experience at the European Union's edges. Sergio also talks to us about No Name Kitchen's Bloody Borders report, which they released last month, and about the horrific levels of abuse they documented happening at Europe's borders. So before we get into today's episode, I'd just like to remind you that the Civil Fleet is not just a podcast. We also have a blog at civilfleet.com, and if you go there you can find news reports, some investigative stories and some interviews as well. I haven't updated it for a while, my life has been quite busy, but should hopefully be able to get some more news reports on there soon. Anyway, go to civilfleet.com for that. And if you like what the Civil Fleet is doing and you would like to support us, if you want to help us to continue to platform the amazing activists, the refugees, the trade unionists, the lawyers, and all the different types of people that we've had on this podcast, if you'd like to help us to continue to platform them, then you can make a small donation by going to ko-fi.com/civilfleet. That's ko-fi.com/civilfleet. If you go there, you can make a small donation, you can make a massive donation, you can help us cover the costs of platforming these amazing people. Anyway, I think that's enough from me. Let's get on with the show. This is episode 51 with Sergio from No Name Kitchen. Okay, Sergio, thank you very much for coming on the Civil Fleet podcast.
Thank you so much, Ben, for inviting me and for inviting us, NNK. It's like a pleasure to be in Civil Fleet.
Oh, it's really good. Thank you so much. I really like the work that No Name Kitchen does. You do some really great stuff. And we're going to talk today about a special report that you released, I think, last month in December. We're going to talk about that today. I've got a bit of a cold, so my voice is a little bit strange, I think. So apologies to the listeners for that. But yes, Sergio, you are the Protection Technical Reference at No Name Kitchen, or NNK.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you ended up working for No Name Kitchen and what you do for No Name Kitchen?
So, basically, my background is on philosophy and anthropology. I did a bachelor's degree on philosophy and anthropology, and I was always interested in migration. So, since years, I consider myself activist on human rights. And by 2018, I was looking some project to volunteer on the field along the Balkan routes, because it was kind of connected with this like humanitarian crisis, refugee crisis on 2015 and the closing of the borders in 2017. So I was really looking for some place, and I found NNK by chance through some close friend, and I just went for some weeks, 3 weeks in Serbia as a volunteer. Then I came back and I joined again the project we started in Greece, in Patras in 2019. And I was there for 6 months on the field. Then I took a break and I came back with NNK as part of the coordination, like paid staff in 2021, by the end of 2020, in the middle of COVID. So at the beginning, I was involved in some remote, different tasks. And then I jumped into some of the coordination tasks, and I became the country reference for the project in Patras. And I did some other tasks in communication department, the communication team in NNK. And right now, since spring of this year, I'm focused and I'm on the protection team, carrying different tasks for NNK. Super focused on the nouns and the monitoring of the abuses of different rights that are happening at the borders of the European Union.
And the abuses are pretty terrible. As you know, the report you have outlined, there are a lot of really horrific abuses in there, which we'll get onto later. But anyone listening, we'll have links in the show notes to where to find the report. And I know it's all over your social media too. So can we talk a bit about No Name Kitchen? Like, I know we've had Barbara from No Name Kitchen, and we also had someone else from No Name Kitchen a long time ago on the podcast to talk about Ceuta, I think. the Spanish enclave near, I think it's Morocco, right?
Yeah, in Ceuta.
Ceuta.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. That was a long time ago, and I can't remember when it was. But yes. So we've had No Name Kitchen on the podcast before, but can you give us a recap, Sergio, of the organization and what kind of work it does and where it works and this kind of thing?
Yes, of course. Like we consider ourselves, Learning Kitchen, as an independent movement. We are registered in different countries for logistics and other things, but we are like a international movement that works alongside the so-called Balkan routes, mainly Bosnia and Serbia. Right now we are in Bulgaria as well, so we cover all the European uh, eastern, and also in the Mediterranean we are present in Ceuta. This is the enclave in the Moroccan soil, in the Moroccan territory, where we are covering the administrative violence and abuses since 2 years, more than 2 years. And basically, we work on promote humanitarian aid. That is, on the one hand, one of our missions, but on the other hand, there is a huge and a strong political action that we carry, all the activists that are joining the different projects that we have, and the aim is to monitor and to denounce like all the abuses, the difficulties that people on the move are suffering on their journeys, and especially to monitor and to denounce the pushbacks. That is, I would say, one of the biggest issues that are happening right now nowadays at the borders of the European Union.
And then it's happening a lot, right? And the pushbacks are just getting bigger and bigger. It seems it's really a terrible situation. Just for anyone who doesn't know, can you tell us? I think everyone listening to this podcast will know, but there might be people that are new to the podcast. Um, can you just describe what a pushback is and why is it illegal?
Yeah, of course. Like in general, we hear a lot about deportations. I mean, in the UK and Spain, it's super common to listen about these like flights, the planes, the state and the governments they flee to take people out of the country. That is the deportation, and it's like super uh, common. But like the pushback in itself is something that maybe many people is not used to listen about and to know about. And basically is some of the state measures that force people on the move, refugees, migrants, uh, back over a border. So it implies two different countries for the pushback. And there is no consideration of the individual circumstances. There is no possibility to apply for asylum, and there is like any kind of legal procedures that are following up. So, in like general terms, the pushbacks are irregular and are illegal because during these pushbacks, these events, there are many different rights, human rights that are violated. For example, the prohibition of collective expulsions, the right to an effective remedy, the provision of inhuman and degrading treatment, the right to property. So all these rights that are basic for a human being are denied, are violated, and that means a pushback, something that is illegal and is carried by different states. In this case, we can talk about the like the role of Croatia, Bulgaria, Hungary, but basically that is what a pushback can be called.
Right, and yeah, because I think something people in the UK I think often forget is that you have the right to claim asylum anywhere, right? People have the right, and if you are not given that right, that is and that's an abuse of your human rights. So pushing people back, it's really terrible. Like it's not supposed to happen that way, right?
Yeah, of course, that's the point. Like we try to fight this inhuman border regime we have in Europe that is making people and forcing them to risk their lives because, of course, many people coming from different countries, they don't have like a safe passage. They don't have a way to get access to different countries because they cannot have access to a visa, for example. So they need to risk crossing the borders by other points that are not the checkpoints that, of course, they are not going to be allowed. And then when they arrive to like some countries like Bulgaria or Slovenia or some other countries or Croatia, they try to claim asylum. Many of them they try to claim asylum, but the authorities, the border police, they don't listen to their requests, and they just force them back. So that's the biggest problem. That even if they make it loud that I want to claim asylum here in the country, it's totally denied that right for them.
And so, No Name Kitchen, you're mostly based in Eastern Europe, right? Along the Balkan route, which I think you said is Serbia, Croatia, um, Bulgaria, and Albania. Maybe is around there, the border, I guess. These are the Balkan countries, and you used to be in Greece, right? The organization used to be in Greece, and you're also based between Italy and France border now. Is that right?
Yes, of course, we are in Ventimiglia um, nowadays, and you are right. We are mainly based in the Eastern Europe, in the Balkans. We started in Shid in Serbia when we started in 2017 in this small town in Shid. It's close to the Croatian border, and since then we start different projects in Bosnia, and then we start different projects in Greece, in Patras, where we were there until May this year, when we shut down the project because people on the move were not trying anymore to cross from Greece to Italy, because it was really difficult for them, and the route changed a little bit. But since then, we have started different projects, for example, in Croatia as well. And recently, we started the project in Ventimiglia at the border with France. And now we are present as well in Trieste, that is at the other side of the Italian country and close to Slovenia. And of course, we are right now present as well in Bulgaria, near the town of Harmanli, to monitor the pushbacks that are happening from the Turkish side and from the people who managed to cross to Bulgaria. So we are basically present from Morocco in Spain to Turkey, we could say, and we are covering more or less all the so-called Balkan route.
Do you know? Can you speak about why people choose to take the Balkan route? Like we know, like on the Civil Fleet podcast, we've had lots of people talk about the Mediterranean, and it's clearly very, very dangerous. But can you? I don't know. Maybe have you spoke to people that have said why they are taking this route into Europe? Are they forced that way?
Yeah, well, it's true that it's sometimes quite, I don't know, interesting to listen from people that is coming from Morocco. That, for example, in the case of Spain, we have like 13 kilometers from Ceuta, that is the closest point in Morocco to Spain. But people is choosing to travel maybe to Serbia, and then from there trying to cross to Europe, choosing the longest way, because maybe it's less dangerous than trying to cross by boat or like swimming to the Spanish soil. Uh, so yeah, we listen different stories from people choosing the Balkan routes, because maybe it's quite safer than trying maybe crossing the Mediterranean from Libya. And then arriving in Italy, that is like not sure what is going to happen. But of course, like taking a look to the numbers of people who died in the Mediterranean in the last years is crazy, and it's easy to understand why people is maybe taking the decision to go by foot or taking taxis or any other means, but doing the long way, starting maybe in Turkey or Greece and trying to reach like Italy or France or Spain, but from the other side, and not taking the Mediterranean, because it's really, really dangerous, and especially in winter, that is completely almost impossible. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Mediterranean is so dangerous. It's really what I can't actually remember how many people have died, how many people died in 2023, but I think it was very high, right? A really high number of people. And have you seen, just completely on the side, the NGO Emergency have released a video about sea rescues. It's really good. I saw it this morning. It's fantastic. Anyone listening should go and check that out. It's really good. Do you know the one I'm talking about, Sergio?
No, I didn't take a look. I didn't watch it.
It shows a lifeguard on a beach, and there's someone drowning in the sea, and the lifeguard goes to catch the people to get, to go and rescue the person drowning. But everybody comes up to the lifeguard and says, "Do you know where they're from? Do they have a passport? Someone else can rescue them." It's really very good. So, Sergio, can you tell us about the things you've witnessed while working for No Name Kitchen? Like, what kind of things, what kind of people have you met? What kind of things have you seen while over in the Balkan route or wherever you've worked?
Well, I think from NNK we have witnessed a lot. I mean, like from these years, almost 6 years since we started in 2017, we have witnessed a lot of cases of violence. I think that would be the main thing that we have witnessed through these years. And I can speak about different kinds of violence. It's not just the physical, but it's also some kind of psychological violence. That's sometimes administrative violence, in the case of Ceuta, for example. But there are like a bunch of different types of abuses that have been committed by different authorities in all the places we are working. And also something that we have witnessed a lot is the presence of minors and families that are trying to reach Europe, and also the conditions of some of these temporary reception centers, refugee camps in Serbia or Bosnia, for example, the lack of um, proper conditions to host some human beings. That is really painful to know that some of the funds coming from the European citizens and the taxes of the European citizens that are like used in these reception centers are not really covering any kind of the basic necessities. So it's really tough because we don't work in inside the camps. As an NK, we work in different places that people choose to live and to make time before trying to reach Europe. So we don't work inside, and we work outside, and we listen from the people that are inside about these conditions. And yeah, I think we have witnesses also many cases of people who died in the Balkans trying to cross rivers that are really dangerous. Uh, Also, people who died like in accidents related with the trains, for example, in Serbia. That is really painful to know that young people are trying to reach like different countries in the European Union to join families or friends, or to try to have a better future, and they are losing lives. Not as high numbers as in the Mediterranean, but since these years we have know about different cases that at some point are kind of invisible, are not so mediatic, not so present on the media, but are happening, and it's all because the lack of this safe passage, the like legal ways to reach Europe from different countries. Because we met many people from Afghanistan or Pakistan, but also from different countries in Africa, Morocco, for example, Syria as well. We met and we meet many people coming from Syria as well nowadays. But yeah, there are many cases, many different things tough to digest that we have witnesses through these years. Working on the field 24/7 the whole year on the different borders. And also we have witnesses a lot of abuses, internal abuses. For example, very recently in the case of Serbia, there have been a lot of evictions in different places where people are living. So it's tough to see how the authorities are cleaning some spots and moving by force people to other camps far from the border to the south of Serbia, for example, to make it even harder for them to reach again the north. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you said that a lot of these abuses are being funded by the European Union or European countries, European governments, right? It's really quite horrible. You mentioned like a couple of different kinds of abuses of violence, like you said that there's physical violence, obviously psychological and administrative. I know in the report, which we'll talk about next, you talk about quite a few different types of these of violence. I don't know. Could you kind of explain what do you mean by psychological violence, which I think is quite obvious, and administrative violence? What do you mean by those?
About administrative violence, exactly, we know a lot of this in the case of Ceuta, where we work supporting people on the move who are trying to reach Spain and to get the residence permit to live in Spain, and they are facing a lot of handicaps, a lot of challenges by the authorities, like not being able to communicate because the lack of translator in the places they are supposed to claim for this residence permit. Like the times of the processes are super slow, and like it's not easy for anybody to get, for example, an appointment to do the interview and to start the processes. So there are a lot of different things that are not by chance but on purpose done by the authorities that are making things much harder for the people who are waiting on Ceuta for an opportunity to move to Spain and then start living there. And the other case of psychological violence is something that we have witnessed a lot in these years, and we have listened from people that it's not only the physical violence, the beatings, the different types of violence inflicted by authorities, but also uh, during these pushbacks, there is a lot of insults coming from the border police. There are some kind of actions carried by the police that are having some emotional and psychological impacts on the people, some kind of practices involving how they are treated, how they are like perceived by the border police, that has some kind of emotional impact. And we always, when we do the interviews and when we do this monitor task on the field, we are always aware of the traumatization, the re-traumatization that people can suffer when they are opening themselves to talk and to tell about the different abuses. And many times it's not just talking about the beatings and the kicks by the police and the use of electrical batons or whatever, but how they perceive that they are not considered a human being. That is really painful for many of them to realize this kind of hate coming from the authorities in the way of how they are being told, how the border police are like laughing, making laugh of them. And it's very painful to listen from people like, okay, from maybe the beats and the kicks and the injuries I can heal, but this psychological violence is something that takes more time to heal and to recover.
I imagine a lot of people have, PTSD, or, psychological trauma, and it's very dehumanizing. And some of these people are quite young, right, as well. That are being, it's even happening to kids, right? The physical and administrative and psychological violence is happening to children as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah. From the reports and the interviews and the monitor job we do, uh, we can, or we calculate that almost close to half of the people that are involved in these pushbacks are minors. Sometimes it's minors that are part of the family, are traveling with the parents. Sometimes it's just unaccompanied minors. Um, Many times are friends coming together but are underage, and they are present on half of the people that are suffering are minors, and it's really hard to see how they are coming from like Afghanistan or Pakistan all the way to the Balkans, and they are suffering these kind of abuses by Croatian authorities, and even that they are like with some positive attitude to try again to reach different countries, the UK or Germany or France, to join with friends and family.
Yeah, it's really tragic. When I interviewed Barbara, your colleague Barbara, she talked about how like I can't remember if it was her or she or someone else in No Name Kitchen, but they met some children and they can't help them. They can't take them to the hospital or something because they can be accused of human trafficking, right? And then that would gets the whole organization into trouble, and you can't do your work. It's really horrible. Like I've heard about this happening in many places along the Balkan route and in Greece as well. That if you help people, then you can be, charged for human trafficking or human smuggling. I always get those confused, and I know they're different. Um, but yes, it's really horrific. Um, so the report, you released a report, I think it was in December, like a few weeks ago. We're recording now on January the 3rd, 2024. So yeah, I think last month you released, No Name Kitchen released a report. Can you give us an overview of the report? I think you called it Bloody Borders. So yeah, give us an overview of this report and why you released it.
This special report we published a few weeks ago in December, it was just a summary of what we have been doing from March to October. Because, as I said before, in 2017, we were present in Sheet in Serbia, and we started together with another German NGO this project called Border Violence Monitoring Network that we were part for the past 5 years, and we were monitoring the violence at the borders. We were collecting all these testimonies. By March this year, we took the decision of leaving the network due to some reasons, but we kept doing the same job, that is being there present every day and collecting all the testimonies we are able to do it. So for that, we present this report that is like a picture of what happened in the past months, to let people know that things are still being more or less the same, and even if the amount of reports we are taking is really low due to different reasons, that means that the numbers of people that are suffering this kind of violence is super high these days, and it's not something that is becoming less and less common. Quite the opposite, is at some points increasing due to some of the different strategies from the governments on the European border that are fortifying, putting a lot of money on make it harder for people on the move. Also means at some point that the mafias, the different kind of smuggler mafias, are being more and more necessary for people to try to overcome these difficulties. So it's kind of really
like a vicious circle.
Yes, exactly. It's like a kind of a vicious circle. And for these 6 months we covered in the report, we found that almost close to 1,200 people suffer pushbacks at different locations, different spots along the borders of the European Union. And super dramatic numbers show that almost 75% of all these people who were involved in a pushback were beaten. That is like super high numbers. If you think about how many people are suffering these abuses that we are not able to monitor and to collect. So from NNK, we think we are able to collect around 2%, 3% of the cases that are happening, based on how many people we treat, we engage every day, and how many people are open to share the testimonies and to tell about the different stories. So based on that, the numbers of people who are suffering pushbacks and who are suffering these different kinds of violence is much higher. So that gives like a picture of what is going on right now at the borders of Europe. That is quite dramatic.
Yeah, it's really horrible. Like you said, you in the report, I think you surveyed or spoke to 1,222 people. And then you said, is that like 1 or 2% of the numbers of people that come through the border?
Yeah, we calculated more or less that the amount of people we are interacting every day in the different projects we have, because the support that we provide at some point is quite on humanitarian level, to provide some basics like food and hygiene and clothes and sleeping bags for winter, NFIs. But during these distributions we do on a daily basis, the volunteers, the activists that are on the field, they manage just to maybe collect testimonies from maybe 2-3% of all these people who most probably suffer at some point through during the journey they are doing some pushback at some point. So yeah, the 1,222 people who suffer is just the people we were able to interact and to build some trust, who were kind to share the testimonies, their stories, but maybe there are other thousands that are not sharing the testimonies, that are not able to speak and to have a voice and to tell their stories and to be put on the statistics. So maybe the numbers of people are much higher.
Yeah, I imagine it's much higher. I think your report says 72% of those people experience being beaten by border guards, and that is crazy. Like this could be like, and if you made that bigger, that if you managed to, if you could speak to everyone, which is obviously impossible, but I imagine they would all, that would statistic would continue to be high. That is crazy. A thing that really struck me is that, like, I think the report says that 45% of people that you spoke to had, experienced some kind of theft of their personal belongings, and over 30% of people, of their belongings were destroyed by border guards. Like, what kind of things were destroyed? Do you know, or were stolen? I guess their phones and.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ben, because something that we have witnessed over these years is some systematic practice carried by different authorities that are aimed to destroy and to make the mobile phones like not usable. Most probably because they know is the mean for people on the move to navigate and to guide themselves through the different routes. But also is like important for them to communicate with families and to establish some kind of communication with people, for example, like NNK, who are present on the field. We make contact with people on the field, people on the move that are in different places through like messenger applications, through different social media, through hotlines, to try to cover their necessities. So having a mobile phone is vital for them, and the authorities, the border police, they know, and they like make all the possible, everything that is on their hands to destroy or make the mobile phones not usable. But also they destroy other kind of belongings, like in winter, for example, they are forcing people to undress, and they we listened and we knew recently this year the case of Croatian authorities making burning spots at the border with Bosnia to burn like the phones and other belongings like the clothes and other things that are vital. Sometimes they destroy or make the food, the small amounts of food that people is carrying to try to survive during the days they are on the field, trying to reach the places they are aiming. The police took the time to destroy and to make like the food spoil. So they are forcing people to go back to Bosnia in this case, because if not, it's impossible for them to continue the journey, because they don't have any means to navigate, and they don't have like food or any other things like clothes to manage the cold, or the cold nights, or the sleeping bags are also destroyed. So yeah, we have seen these particles as something that is done in a systematical way all over these years, that are mainly focused on the destruction of phones.
Yeah, that's really sad. Like it, because also obviously the beatings is terrible, but also, like, if you're removing people's phones or their tents or their food, then it makes the journey so much harder. And it's like you said, it's like it's an abuse of their human rights, right? It's a dehumanizing things that are happening to them.
Yeah, and it's not only that they just destroy. Sometimes we listen from people about, for example, money being taken by the authorities. So they are taking the money. At some points, they are threatening people like, okay, if you don't pay me 200 euros, I will put you in detention, or I will push you back. So they are taking money. Sometimes they are just taking the money directly. And like sometimes we have listened about the stories coming from people telling about like authorities taking the phones and then selling in a black market later. So I mean, this is kind of funny, but it's super dramatic that the phones that are really cheap, they are destroying that. But if I know, they found kind of iPhone mobile phone, that one is not destroyed and then maybe is um, sell later in kind of informal groups of different individuals. It's something that, of course, we don't have proofs, we don't have a way to corroborate, but it's something that we have listened few times over these years of this kind of practices.
I guess it shows that, you know, the border regime, all these borders is just fueling crime, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it just creates violence. It doesn't solve the problem if you see it as a problem, which I don't, obviously, but yeah. And another thing that like really shocked me in the report is like the number of people attacked by dogs. There was like, I think it said 20% of people that you spoke to last in that time period were attacked by dogs. That's awful. Like, was that in a specific place or was it in, you know, this like all over the region?
Well, we have listened a lot of these attacks by dogs in the Bulgarian uh, territory. So the majority of the reports we have collected on the field telling about these attacks are happening in Bulgaria. But of course, it's something that is happening in other places. It's not just a specific of Bulgaria, but it's true that like the majority of them are happening at the border between Bulgaria and Turkey. But yeah, it's quite terrific to listen from people who are suffering this kind of pushback that sometimes are happening at like late during the day at night, and just imagine being in a forested area or walking along a road and being stopped by a group of police with dogs in a lead and being threatened by the dogs, and at some points like being attacked by a dog trying to bite you on different places is quite terrific. Also considering that at the same time the police is making jokes and yelling to the dog to attack and to bite, that has really a huge impact on the individual and on people in the move.
Yeah, it's really terrible. It's really like really quite scary as well. I was bit on the back by a dog as a child, and it was horrible. But like you know, if you're trying to escape violence in your home country and being assaulted by dogs everywhere, that's just yeah, awful, absolutely terrifying. And then you found that like pushbacks are happening everywhere, basically along the Balkan route. Many people are being forced away from the European Union towards Serbia, which is not in the European Union, I think. And yeah, I think you said like 43. The report says that this is happening to like 43% of the people that were pushed back were children, right? As well.
Yeah.
It's not just happening to adults. It's happening to a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. As I said before, like in the testimonies we have collected over these past months, 43% of the individuals who suffered these pushbacks were minors, but that means that some of them are like unaccompanied minors that are traveling alone in maybe a small group, or like children that are traveling together with the parents that are part of a biggest group and are trying to move forward. But yeah, we as well we know a lot about women, but I will say it's like in a lowest number, in a lower number. But yeah, the case of minors is dramatic to see like almost half of the people who are suffering these different kinds of violence are minors less than 18 years old.
I'm not sure this was in the report, but I've heard that you know people are getting bounced between lots of different countries, right? So they might make it to Turkey. Sorry, they might make it to Greece, but then they get pushed to Turkey. Then they go from Turkey to Bulgaria, and they get pushed from Bulgaria back to Turkey. And you know, people are like being passed around like a football, I suppose, which is really sad to see.
Yeah, yeah. Many times we listen from people telling about I don't know how many attempts, how many times they were pushed back through different countries, and it's like incredible the amount of I don't know, times that they are being like, as you said, moved as a ball in a football match over different countries.
And then in the report, you also highlight the case of I think he's Afghan, an Afghan man at Bulgaria's border. Could you kind of tell us about that? Tell us about that guy's experience, that person's experience.
Yeah, one of the reports that we highlighted in the special report that can work as an example of the reports we are collecting is quite a good example of very similar to many of the other cases and pushback that we are collecting on the field. This case of a 24-year-old man from Afghanistan that were part of a biggest group of people that were trying to cross from Turkey to Bulgaria, and they were pushed back to Bulgaria when they were like walking in this forested area, aiming to manage to Sofia, and then from there crossing to Serbia, and then again crossing to Croatia, and trying to reach different countries in the European Union. And in this case, they were attacked by the dogs, and they were like really having a tough moment, because also they were attacked. This specific man, he was attacked with electrical shocks that is inflicting some huge pain on the body. So this is just like quite of an example of like the many cases we are listening that are at some point similar. People trying to reach, trying to cross the countries and being apprehended in different points. And one of the most dramatic things is that many times happen that after being apprehended at some point, they are sometimes forced to the ground, or they are forced into like the vehicles that the border police are using, and many times they wait there inside the vehicles with, for example, the air conditioner in winter to make even colder for them, or in summer without any kind of windows open to suffocate, or uh, being driven on bumpy roads for like hours that can cause some kind of nausea or kind of effects on the body, and then push back again at the border without any kind of consideration, and just forced to go back. So yeah, this is quite of a sample of what is going on, and like it's very similar on some of the other cases. But the interesting thing is that in some other cases we are able to collect and to listen about other practices that are close to torture, because something different is like even if all these cases and all these type of violence are need to condemn, sometimes we hear and we listen about practices that are close to torture that at some point could be denounced and could be put on court, and to have some legal cases, and to try to make somebody accountable on these practices, like involving different case of physical torture, or forcing people to be in a river, in a cold river for 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes without the clothes, or yeah, any other kinds of abuses that are like can be considered as a torture that is quite of also sadistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in your opinion, who do you think is accountable to all of this? Like, sometimes it's, I know that's a bit hard question to answer, but it's yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just sometimes I think how do we get justice for this? Like, who who do we blame for all this? I mean, it's more than just one person, I suppose. It's a whole system. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, in your opinion?
I think that is really tough, even if we are doing our best, all the activists that are working every day on the field trying to make some change and to bring some change is really tough, because like last, I think it was 2 years ago, Lighthouse Report published this research about the practices of Croatian authorities carrying these pushbacks, and the result was some kind of like individuals being punished. But the point is that it's not individuals being sadistics or individuals carrying bad practices, is the system that is uh, behind, that is supporting all these practices. And of course is like the border regime, the fortress Europe in itself, promoting all these practices and making people quite of free to do all these things and to commit all these abuses, because they are aware, they know that it's quite impossible for anybody to be like yeah, to be accountable and to have some consequences. That is the most sad part of this story, that even if we do our best, other collectives, other people doing the same job, the power is not on our side and is on the side of those who are the perpetrators and those who are the ones that are really creating this system.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a systematic problem, right? It's not like just one person that can stop this. Um, I think I want to ask one more thing about the special report, and then we'll move on to the final questions. In the report, you mentioned the Bloody Borders project, and you say that there's a website for that coming soon. Can you give us more details about that?
Yeah, the idea with this project, with the Bloody Borders, is to create a platform that is open to any kind of collective, NGO, individuals who wants to join forces on this attempt, on this uh, try to denounce and to monitor the different borders. Because, as I said before, we have projects in uh, right now several different places, and we have activists, volunteers on those places every day working. But of course, the capacities of NNK are at some point limited, and we cannot cover all the places we were talking before where these pushbacks are happening. And we are aware, and we know that we are just like putting an eye on like a small part, because for sure, of course, there are pushbacks happening in other places. Like we knew a few years ago about what is going on between Poland and Belarus. So there are other different places, other different spots that, of course, we are not covering. So the idea with this border, with this project, with the Bloody Borders, is to create like a website, a common database that is open to everybody who wants to share the testimonies that are being collected on the field. So it's just promoted by NNK, but is like some kind of common good and some kind of common tool for everybody to feed the database and to have better numbers, better figures to analyze, and to be available for researchers, for journalists to use it as some resource and some source to make it public what is going on. And we are working on it. It's still in work in progress, the website, the landing page. But the idea is to move every single report that is collected on the field by different activists to this website, and to be available and public, to be yeah.
I think it's a really good idea, especially for me. That would be really a really great thing. Like, because there's so many different groups. I tried to interview many of them that are doing this really important work. To have somewhere to put all that would be really good. Do you have any idea on when it will be launched, or is it just still a work in progress?
Yes, I will try to. I will like to be optimistic and to say that by the first quarter of this year, so let's say by March of this year, we will have the website ready. But we are still working with the developers to create the platform, to do in the best way possible, to make it easier to use, and make it super friendly, so it's not like a pain in the ass to to contribute. So yeah.
It's still a work in progress. That's okay. I understand deadlines are really hard.
Yes.
Don't like deadlines. Okay, and then I think that was everything I wanted to ask Sergio about the report. Was there anything you wanted to add? Was there anything you think we should have spoke about in the report?
No, I think in the report we almost cover everything that we found, and we highlighted in the interview today. Maybe what is the prospect of all of this? What is like maybe the vision for the future with these actions, with these projects? We are taking this just like a first step on our new way of communicating, and our new way of doing actions that are going beyond just collecting the testimonies, but it's like a good step to put like the grounding for the new project. So we hope to have any other different special reports covering different topics in the future. But this is quite of the very basic, the backbones of what is like the work that not just NNK but others are doing on the field. This kind of monitoring effort to put an eye and to make it visible at some point, because sometimes is as a journalist that the like the attention it depends a lot on the time and what is happening at the same point, because a few years ago the attention to refugees was much higher and it was like super visible on any kind of like newspaper or any other outlets about the Syrian exodus from in 2015. But then after years, all this attention from the media has decreased a lot, and nowadays, since the like invasion in Ukraine and now with the case of Gaza, is like taking a lot of attention of what is going on the case of the Balkan routes and the situation for people on the move who are trying to reach Europe, to reach different countries, and they are doing exactly on the same way, on the same numbers that years ago, but it looks kind of not happening, kind of invisibilized nowadays because the focus is on other things that are taking more attention. So with these actions, these players, we try to bring back some of the attention to what is going on still on these borders, and try to make an effort to make it harder for the authorities to like being more free to carry these violations, these abuses on a way that is like really easy for them to become not accountable.
I think it's really important. That's what I hope the podcast does, is bring some attention to this situation, because it's not going away and it's getting worse, if anything, right? It's interesting to think about worthy victims and unworthy. I think the media and often politicians treat some people as worthy victims and others as non-worthy victims. I think you can see it really clearly with the way that Ukrainian refugees were treated so well, which was great, and then the way that these people that people coming from Morocco or Afghanistan, Pakistan, and these kind of places are treated so differently. Even Gazans are treated so differently, right? It's very clear, I think.
Yeah, it was a good example in this case of Ukrainian. That should be the standard of welcoming refugees and welcoming people who are fleeing from like disasters or wars. That should be the standard, and it's quite of like sad and dramatic to see which kind of difference are like regarding the color of your skin or the money in your pocket, how you are welcome or not by the European Union, by the different European countries. So it was a good reminder, but it was also sad to see, because we are witnessing every day all the people who are doing the same, just fleeing a place that is not safe, but they are suffering and facing like a different reality, more harsh, more violent in other places that are really not on the scope of the media.
Absolutely, yeah. How do you feel about this is the big question I like to ask at the end of the interview, is how are you feeling about the future of all of this? Do you think it's going to get any better, the situation for people on the move in Europe?
In general, the migration, in general, the movement of the people is something that cannot be stopped. So I guess in the future, the biggest problem, as I said before, is how these new strategies, how these new plans from the European Union, from different countries, is going to have some kind of impact on people on the move, on the way, on how they're going to become more dependent, or how they're going to be depend on mafias like the smugglers to make it possible to reach. That for sure will mean like people is gonna need to spend more money to pay like people who is facilitating the travel. So yeah, in general, I think it's gonna be tough for people because as the European Union is fortifying the borders, the possibilities for people to cross the borders is going to be less and less, and they're going to depend more on some other ways to cross. Ideal, the best future for all people on the move who are trying to reach Europe could be to have like legal and safe paths and passages to reach the places they are willing to reach and to do in a way that is safe for their lives and they don't need to risk their lives. So that's where what we are trying from NNK and from the field to bring some changes and to make at some point some impacts on the policies and the different migration management by different countries. But we will see what the future is going to bring.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it seems like think violence is going to get. There's going to be an increase in violence because of the Europe's new sort of pact, migration pact, as it's called. Things don't look like it's going to be good there. But I take inspiration from people like you and and organizations like No Name Kitchen and all the people working in the Mediterranean. That gives me a lot of hope for the future. So thanks for everything that you do, Sergio, and everything that No Name Kitchen does. I noticed you've got a really cool. I really like your jumper. I think it's got the No Name Kitchen logo on. People listening
Something like
can't.
that.
I was just going to say, people listening to the podcast can't see that, but it's really
Yeah.
cool. I'll have links to it. But can you tell us where can we buy that jumper? Where can we find out more about NNK and this kind of thing?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Ben, first for having us here today to share and to tell the audience about what is going on. And also to give the opportunity to tell people if they want how they can do to join NNK, the movement, because there are different things that people can do. The movement is not just about the borders; it's also welcoming people in different countries, supporting people on the different European countries that they arrive to make it a bit easier for them to find the ways on to like claim asylum or to have a residence permit. But if they want to join the field, they can always do just making a contact through the website. We have an easy way to contact us and to find where is the best place for them and when is the best moment for them to join. Uh, and of course, considering that we do not depend on public funds, we depend private donors and private funds. And one of the best ways to contribute and to support people on the move is by making a donation on our website and getting some cool jumper or some cool t-shirts, or right now we are with the calendars, the solidarity calendars for this year. So all these ways that are accessible in the store in our website is a good way to contribute. So we are not selling jumpers or calendars or t-shirts. We are just giving them as a gift for the donations that people are doing, because we are not making any profit with this kind of merchandising. It's just a good way to share the message and to share with your friends and family and about NNK, and to make kind of promo for other people who feel this kind of willing to support people on the move. Um, so always we are welcoming people to join the field, because having people 24/7 for the whole year is really tough, and we depend a lot on like individuals, activists who wants to give their time to support people on the move by yeah making the work we are doing on the field. That is also one of the best things that I personally consider and value from NNK, the real contact and the relation we create with people on the move in all the different places we are. That even apart from giving some NFIs, food or whatever, being there and make some kind of establish some relation with people on the move is, I think, the most valued thing by the people on the move themselves, to feel human again, to feel listen, and to feel part of the community again, on those places that they need to be super hidden and not visible to bring the less attention possible from the authorities. So having this human contact from the activists, from the volunteers on the field, I think is the best way to fight this border regime, to make this hope to people on the move who are facing all this harsh situation, all this harsh reality, to let them know that they are not alone and that there is a lot of people willing to support and to make some changes. So being on the field is the best way, but if you don't have the time or the capacities, coming to our store and having a cool jumper or a cool t-shirt with a great design is a good opportunity to support people on the move.
Yeah, and I think it's really important what you do, and I think the website is nonamekitchen.org.
Yes.
And I'll have links to that, and I'll have links to No Name Kitchen's social media in the show notes. So check it out on your phone if you're listening to this on your phone. Yeah, that was really great. And maybe we just a last question. And I've often seen, Man City, Pep Guardiola. He often wears the no name. He wears open arms
Yes.
jumper. Has he got No Name Kitchens?
We always talk about this when we are gonna send like a jumper to Guardiola, to see if it's possible for him to wear on a match and to visualize the project and the movement. That would be super cool, because, as you know, football rules and the audience is like huge. So have some kind of like a promo on Guardiola in a match with a jumper of NNK could be like a great opportunity to be recognized. So yeah, that's cool.
Well, that'll be good. I'll keep an eye out. Maybe I could email. Man City. Anyway. All right, Sergio, that was really good. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks to everything that NNK does.
You're welcome, Ben, and thank you so much for the time and for the opportunity to have us here today. So yeah, I thanks a lot to Civil Fleet, and great job with the podcast, with your project there, and we hope to be here maybe again in the future, in next podcast when you reach the 100 podcast. That will be a pleasure.
Oh, sure. I'm sure you'll be back before then.
Thank you so much, Ben. It was super nice to talk with you.
All right, that was episode 51 of the Civil Fleet podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks again to Sergio and to everyone from No Name Kitchen. Be sure to check them out and check out the show notes and find out more about the group, because they are amazing at what they do. What else do we talk about at the end of the podcast? We go to thecivilfleet.com, check out our blog, and to read the news reports and investigative stories and things that we have there. Be sure to give us a rating, share the podcast around, give us a couple of stars on the old podcast apps. That would really help. Or you can make a donation at ko-fi.com/civilfleet. That's ko-fi.com/civilfleet. Any help that you can give us, any small donations that you can give us, will be greatly appreciated. I didn't get an episode out in December. December's always a busy month, but hopefully we should get some more regular podcasts coming out soon for the rest of 2024. Anyway, I hope you had a good new year. I hope everyone is doing well. And bye. Until next time. See you later. Bye-bye.